Testing, testing. 1, 2, 3. Okay. All right, let's see. Just make sure everything looks good. We're getting some sound. Testing. Yep, looks like everything's good. So let's go ahead and get sculpting. This session I'm just going to be working on this female mock head or small model that I started as a design for a possible upcoming stone sculpture. I have a white piece of marble that's really nice that I'd like to do somewhat of a simple design, but a little bit more realistic than some of my other stone sculptures, which have been more abstract. So I'm just going to be kind of playing with this design. I don't have any reference, but just kind of working on creating something that's hopefully interesting and attractive looking. So if you guys have any questions, let me know. If you're watching this, then you might be interested in my sculpting courses. There's links to those in the description of this video, as well as all my videos. I try to keep those links readily available. And yeah, if you have questions or anything, otherwise I'll probably just be sculpting. Some of this I might be talking about what I'm doing, or I might just kind of sculpt in silence. We'll see what I decide to do. I was thinking maybe I should be working on the face, so maybe let me actually zoom in a little bit and work on the details of the face. There we go. Somebody says that's beautiful. Thank you. Appreciate it. That's beautiful. Yeah, the face is a little bit behind the rest of the sculpture though, so hopefully it will continue to be beautiful. I think that beauty's a tricky thing, especially if you're in the arts. It's easier to create things that are, what would you say, avant-garde, shocking, or ugly. If you're trying to create something beautiful, then you're kind of choosing the most difficult thing, because beauty is hard, and we recognize when something is off, and that kind of detracts from its beauty. Whereas if you're sculpting something ugly or something that's supposed to be like horror related or things like that, then it's not as difficult. So, but I think we need more beautiful things in the world. I think anybody that's helping create beautiful things, that's a great pursuit. Makes everybody better off. Makes everything better. It says, yeah, it's not easy. Let's see, I'm just kind of working on the details. This one's going to be fairly simple. Let me actually... On that topic of making things more beautiful, I've been trying to work on a barn on the property, turn it into a new sculpting studio so that I can get out of the house. Right now I'm just filming from one of the rooms in my house, and maybe you can hear the family in the other room. But while I've been doing that, you notice that it's difficult. So making things better is hard, and there's been a lot of bumps in the road to turning what is an old horse barn into a sculpture studio. But if you do it, then it makes everything better. So it makes the property that we live on, it makes it worth more. And as we go through and we repair the property, this old barn house, it not only elevates our house, makes it worth more if we were to sell it again, but when you take it seriously and make your house more beautiful, it actually increases the value of all of the houses around you, because then they're next to a beautiful house that with somebody that takes care of the house, and it looks nice and everything. So when you spend the time and effort to make something better, whether it's creating works of art or just remodeling and improving things, then it makes the world better, and everybody benefits. There's nobody that loses out. That's something that unfortunately a lot of people are convinced that there's only a certain amount of wealth to go around, or there's only a certain amount of resources. But really, the limitation is just our ingenuity. And if we can create things, if we can spend our time creating better ways to use the resources that we already have, then there's no limit to the amount of wealth we can create. And creating beauty through art, I think it makes everybody wealthier. The analogy that I've used is if I go to a stone quarry and I purchase a piece of stone for, let's say, $50 or something. They purchase all the heavy machinery and pull this piece of stone, this nice piece of stone, out of the earth, and then I buy it for $50, or let's say $100. Like, who in that transaction, who got poorer? You could say, oh, well, you got poorer because you spent the $100, but I didn't, because I actually got richer because I value the piece of stone more than the money that I had. So I became richer, and the person that owns the quarry became richer. And so it was mutually beneficial voluntary exchange, or the other word for that is capitalism, but people don't like that word. That was kind of a word to try to put this mutually beneficial voluntary exchange into a negative light. But capitalism, or free trade, it makes everybody wealthier. And so let's say I purchase that piece of stone for $100, and then I take it home and I spend 100 hours or however long it takes to turn that into a beautiful sculpture. And then I take that sculpture, and let's say that I put it in a traditional gallery setting where the gallery takes 50% and I take 50%. And you could say, oh, well, the gallery is stealing that 50% from you. But if the gallery helps me sell that sculpture, which selling is one of the most difficult things, nothing really happens until you sell, until you make a sale. So if the gallery is helping me with the most difficult part of being an artist, which is sales, then I think, that 50% is perfectly reasonable. And, if it's, if I feel like I'm not making enough, I can raise the price. So anyway, the gallery holds the sculpture there and sells the sculpture to an investor. And then you could say, well, who became poorer? Who's worse off for this transaction? And maybe you think, well, the investor, or the art investor, he's now poorer because he spent his money on art. But if it's a good work of art, if it's a beautiful work of art, then that art makes his home more beautiful, and it makes everything in his home worth more, because now he can, if he were to sell his home, he can include that art as part of that investment that is the home. So everything You know, when we work to make something beautiful, or when we work to improve what's around us, it really does benefits everyone. Nobody's made poorer for it. Poorer. It kind of sounds weird when you say a word, and you're like, is that really how it's pronounced? Poorer? Poorer? And it starts, you say it enough and it starts sounding funny. So I just did a video, a shorter video, on the tip that I give for texturing, which is to go across the form instead of along the form, which I've found that our natural tendency, we want to go along the form. So like the arm here, we want to go up and down the arm this way. But when you do that, it just looks worse. And so that was a tip I did in a recent, in a video I just released today. And it's something that I've found to be very helpful. So if you're sculpting and you're struggling with the texturing, see if you're using that technique or trick. Let's see. So now I've got to make some choices with the design. Somebody says, gracias por compartir. De nada. Thanks for sharing. That's what they're saying. And no problem. De nada. It's actually translated, the literal translation is of nothing. De nada. It's always interesting doing like literal translations from Spanish to English, or vice versa, English to Spanish. And things just, the things that we say that we don't realize are just strange. Let's see, I need to take some clay. So if you guys have any questions or anything you'd like me to go over, or even just topics of conversation you'd like me to opine on, just let me know. And I'll address those things. Somebody says, nice work, Andrew. How far are you taking this one? So this one, the plan is for it to be a design for a stone sculpture, but I want it to be a little bit more simplified, but more organic than my other stone sculptures. So I'm really just going to try to solidify what's happening with the hands and face, but something similar to the amount of detail that's in the torso is basically what I'll be going for. So not too detailed, but just enough information to where you can kind of get a sense of what's happening with the figure. Let's see, I think with this arm, I think I'm gonna bring this arm in just a little bit, and that way I can change the pose of the hand just a little bit to something that I feel will be better in stone. I don't like all of the, I don't like that this arm is out, not connected to anything, and it just doesn't feel like it has a lot of support. So I'm just going to bring this in a little bit, have it pressed closer to the figure. And I feel like this shoulder is a little bit, or this humerus, the arm, the upper arm, is a little bit too short. So I'm just going to add a little bit to the shoulder. Somebody says, cuando haces un en vivo del trabajo en mármol. No creo que lo voy a hacer porque cuando estoy trabajando en piedra hace mucho polvo y no me gusta tener la cámara muy cerca cuando estoy haciendo eso, porque destruí una de mis cámaras haciendo eso. Así que tengo que hacer un espacio y no sé cómo hacerlo para que no esté muy para no destruir mi cámara. So somebody was asking, well, when are you going to do a stone sculpting live stream and show the process of stone sculpting live? And I said that I don't know when I'll be able to do that because I ruined one of my cameras filming, or one of the lenses filming when I was recording the process of making a sculpture in stone. And so I don't know when I'll be able to do that. I need to build a setup so that I don't, so that I can record without ruining the camera and equipment. That's kind of expensive. Who are your artistic references? I think there was a single reference photo of a ballet dancer, if I remember correctly, that I was using as this. But right now I'm not looking at a reference, so I don't know where that reference is. But right now I'm just trying to make a good sculpture. And I'm not worried too much about deviating from whatever the reference was at the beginning. Let's see. There's the hand. I'm going to push this aluminum armature. You can see that hand there. I'm going to push it in a little bit because I'd like to have the hand kind of laying across the chest there. And I feel like this. So now the arm looks a little bit funny, but that's okay. Somebody says, I'm a musician. Negatively creating in music is so very easy. The problem is that negative emotion gets passed on. Creating a piece that makes others feel positive is 1,000 times more difficult. Yeah, that's going off of what we were talking about of creating beautiful things versus ugly things. It's always easier to create, or even, negative emotion. So like anger, it's easier to make people angry than it is to make them, grateful or emotional, or, for some reason, those positive emotions are harder to bring to the surface than negative emotions, which is why I think it's so important that people try to do that, try to make beautiful things. Somebody says, when working with monster clay, is it a good idea to let it harden a little after establishing the primary forms before going any further? Yeah, monster clay is not super hard. It's not a very firm clay. This clay that I'm using is a little bit firmer. I've used some monster clay, and I prefer a little bit firmer of a clay. So yeah, maybe letting it set up a little bit more would help to make sure that you're able to establish those details without messing everything up. So yeah, I'd say that's probably a good idea. Though you don't have to, you could, if you want to speed up the process, you could put it in the fridge or something to make sure that it's firm. Yeah, somebody says it's the same for all art forms, referring to the beauty versus just what would you call it, shock or positive, creating positive emotional reaction versus negative. Okay, let's go back. Keep working on the portrait. Let's see, did it freeze? Looks frozen on the screen. Let me check. Oh yeah, I think it froze. Let's see, can you guys hear me in the chat? Anybody that's watching? Dang it. This happened last time. Let me see. Let's see. So, oh, somebody says, yes, we can hear you. Is it, but it's frozen for you guys. Let me see. I'm going to turn off the camera and start it back up. Let's see if that works. Yeah, dang it. I don't know. I think that happened because I had the an external monitor hooked in. Dang it. Yeah, so it turns off, and then when I turn it back on, it does not. It is not working. So here you guys can see if I turn this. Oh, let me make this smaller. So this is the one right here that I turn the camera on and off, and then it's not working. But for some reason that's not going. I'm gonna go ahead and turn it off, stop the live stream, and then start it up again. Yeah, sorry about that. That's what I had to do last time, so I'll keep going. I still need to work on the face a little bit, but thank you everybody, and I'll start another live stream right up. So let me just do that.